not only the technique but essentials of PCR to obtain an efficient and successful PCR product for the downstream applications in the field of scientific research and diagnostics. We know PCR is polymerase chain reaction, which simply means a closed system for DNA replication, which allows a target DNA sequence to be selectively amplified several million folds in just a few hours. But there is a lot behind this little term. If we go to the history, first cloning used to be done. Then in 1983, Carrie B. Mullis developed PCR, for which he was awarded by a Nobel Prize in 1993. Before going to the chemistry of this, we just talk about the fancy of this technique. As this PCR contributes in the field of genetic research, medicine, forensic sciences, and environmental microbiology, study of gene expression, sequencing to look for genetic mutations and their consequences. Even the Human Genome Project used PCR to indicate the presence of a specific genome segment in a particular clone. Even in the field of microbiology, organisms can be studied with the help of genotyping, which allows early identification and treatment, which greatly impacts public health monitoring. Like in virus, PCR is used to detect HIV infection at an early phase, even before the antibodies are formed. PCR based DNA fingerprinting is helpful in ruling out suspects in crime scenes. This is also used in paternity testing. So, these all are the applications of PCR. Now, come to the PCR chemistry, how it actually works. So, in the first step of PCR, two strands of the DNA double helix are physically separated at high temperature, which is at 95 to 98 degrees centigrades in a process called DNA melting. In the second step, temperature is lowered to 55 to 60 centigrades and the primers bind to the complementary sequences of the DNA. Now, these two DNA strands then become templates for each DNA polymerase to enzymatically assemble a new strand from free nucleotides. As PCR progresses, DNA generated is itself used as a template for replication, setting in motion a chain reaction in which originally DNA template is exponentially amplified. Okay, so now come to the so this PCR cycle repeats 25 to 35 times in a typical PCR reaction, which generally takes 2 to 4 hours depending on the length of DNA being copied. But here you see it's not the original DNA that is used as template each time. Instead, the new DNA that is made in one round can serve as template in the next round of the DNA synthesis. So this is the exponential growth pattern. Okay, now just have a look on what is required for a successful PCR reaction. So for a PCR setup, there are some essentials, like first you need a template DNA, you need DNTPs, DNA polymerase, primers, forward and reverse, buffer in a tube. So this is the outline, but we need to know more about these components also. So let's start with the DNA template. It can be from any source, like it can be a genomic DNA, it can be a cDNA, plasmid DNA, and this is very crucial to know the amount to be used in a reaction. So in a 50 microliter reaction, if it is a plasmid DNA, we need 0.1 to 1 nanogram, and if it is a genomic DNA, then 5 to 50 nanogram is sufficient. Now, one more important thing is that your optimal template amount also depends upon DNA polymerase we are using. Like DNA polymerase engineered which has higher sensitivity require lesser amount of DNA. Now, why is it important? Okay, so why is it important? because higher DNA increases non-specific amplification, whereas lesser amount of DNA reduces the yield. So it is clear that DNA amount should be optimized first. And sometimes in a PCR protocol, for input of DNA, so PCR protocol may call for input of DNA in copy numbers. So now what we do, so here is a formula for copy number. So copy number depends upon the number of molecules present in moles of DNA input. Here you can see copy number, which is equal to the capital L into number of moles, where L is the Avogadro's constant and number of moles can be calculated by dividing total mass by molar mass. Now the second one important thing is DNA polymerase. So Taq DNA polymerase has high thermostability with a half-life of 40 minutes at 95 degrees centigrades. What it does, it incorporates nucleotides at a rate of about 60 bases per second at 70 degree centigrades and can amplify lengths about 5 kb. So this is the golden thing, which is a platinum superfi DNA polymerase. It is a proofreading DNA polymerase which combines superior fidelity with trusted platinum hot start technology, which is greater than 100 times of Taq DNA polymerase. Now what is this fidelity means? Fidelity of polymerase refers to its ability to insert the correct base during a PCR. So in a typical 50 microliter reaction, 1 to 2 units of DNA polymerase is sufficient. But when inhibitors are present in the DNA sample, which is a possibility, so increasing the amount of DNA polymerase may improve your PCR yields. However, non-specific PCR products may appear with high enzyme concentration, which is very obvious. So there are two common polymerases. One is the Taq polymerase, other one is the PFU. So Taq can amplify DNA faster than PFU, but it is not nearly as efficient. Okay, now come to the primers. So there are two primers, forward and reverse. These are the synthetic, this is nothing but it is a short oligonucleotide which we call a synthetic DNA nucleotide of approximately 50 to 30 bases. PCR primers are designed to bind to sequence that flank the region of interest in the template DNA. So during a PCR, DNA polymerase extends the primers from 3' ends. And the primer binding sites must be unique to vicinity of target with minimal homology to other sequences of the input DNA. So which is again to ensure specific amplification. And this primer sequence should possess melting temperature in the range of 55 to 70 degrees centigrades, with the melting temperature of the two primers with a difference of 5 degree. Now primers should be designed without complementarity between themselves to avoid primer dimers. One more important thing which need to be understand before designing a primer, that is a GC content. GC content should be 40 to 60% with uniform distribution of G and C to avoid mispriming. Not more than 3G or C bases should be present at the 3' end of the primers to minimize non-specific priming. In fact, 1G or C at the 3' end of the primer can promote beneficial primer anchoring and extension. And primers with more than 50 bases or modified bases often need to be purified to remove non-length products and unconjugated nucleotides. So for setting up a PCR, primers are added to the reaction in the range of 0.1 to 1 micromolar. For primers with degenerated bases or in long PCR ranges increased from 0.1 to 0.3 to 1 micromolar. So here This is again a very important thing, that if you increase the concentration of primers, there will be a chances of mispriming or non-specific amplification, and if you reduce the concentration of primer, there will be no amplification. Now one thing is melting temperature. So you need to know the you need to know the melting temperature formula. So here it is, you can see. Now come to the DNTPs, deoxynucleoside triphosphates, which are DATP, DCTP, DGTP, DTTP. These four nucleotides are typically and uniformly added to the PCR reaction in equimolar amounts for optimal base pairing. However, in certain situations such as random mutagenesis by PCR, unbalanced DNTP concentration are intentionally supplied to promote high degree of misincorporation by a non-proofreading DNA polymerase. Recommended concentration of each DNTP is 0.2 millimolar. So it is not necessary that you always need a lesser or a higher concentration. So in some cases you need higher concentration, like especially in presence of high level of magnesium ions. Like magnesium ions bind to DNTPs and reduces their availability for incorporation. However, if you exceed the amount of DNTPs, that can also inhibit PCR. So for efficient incorporation by DNA polymerase, free DNTPs should be present in the reaction at a concentration of not less than 0.01 to 0.4 millimolar. When using non-proofreading DNA polymerase, fidelity can be improved by lowering DNTP concentration 0.01 to 0.05, as well as proportionating reducing magnesium ions. So here you see all these PCR components are interrelated. Okay, now come to the magnesium ion, which is again a cofactor for the activity of DNA polymerase itself. So what does it do? It enables incorporation of DNTPs during polymerization. Now, magnesium ions catalyze phosphodiester bond formation between 3' OH of primer and the phosphate group of a DNTP. These ions facilitate formation of the complex between primers and DNA templates by stabilizing negative charge on their phosphate backbones. So magnesium ions are generally delivered as MgCl2 for a PCR reaction. But in some cases, some polymerases such as PFU DNA polymerase prefer MgSO4 since sulfate helps ensure more robust and reproducible performance, so which is decided accordingly. The typical final concentration for Mg2 plus or magnesium ion in the PCR is in the range of 1 to 4 millimolar. So here if you lower the amount of magnesium ions, there will be a little or no product, and if you increase the magnesium ion concentration, non-specific product from enhanced stability of primer temperature, late complexes, as well as increase in replication error because of the misincorporation of DNTPs. Now come to the buffer. Buffer provides suitable chemical environment for activity of DNA polymerase. So the pH of the buffer should be 8 to 9.5 and is stabilized by tris HCl. Okay, now potassium in this buffer, potassium ions from KCl, which promotes primer annealing. At times ammonium sulfate is also used, that can be that whereas a KCl in the buffer weak like in ammonium ion has this destabilizing effect, especially on weak hydrogen bonds between mismatched primer template base pairing, thereby enhancing specificity. Okay, so apart from all these components, there are some adjuncts and co-solvents which are highly recommended to improve the PCR reaction. So, in case of troubleshooting, these components are required. Like, first one is BSA, which is a bovine serum albumin that can bind certain PCR inhibitors, and the required amount of this BSA is 10 to 100 microgram per ml. Second one is the formamide that facilitates primer template annealing reaction and lowers the denaturing temperature of melt resistant DNA. Here it is recommended to use it in the range of 1.25 to 10%. Now the third one is the DMSO that can improve denaturation of GC rich DNA. So when you have a DNA of a patient for that specific mutation in which you know the primer has a GC rich, then it can help to overcome difficulties of polymerase extension through secondary structure. So it is required 1 to 10%. Last one is the ammonium sulfate. It also increases the ionic strength of reaction mixture, and it is used in the range of 15 to 30 millimolar, which alters denaturing and annealing temperatures of DNA and enzyme activity. So there are more like glycerol, polyethylene glycol, gelatin, non-ionic detergents, triple N, trimethyl glycine. So all these things are required for a successful PCR reaction. So when you do, you actually know that the importance of all these components. Okay, so in the next session we will actually you will be able to actually see the performance of PCR, how we do and how we get the results. So it's enough for today and for this session. Thank you so much.